In a merciless Wyoming winter, wind howls grief and snow erases the world. Jessica Monroe, former Marine who lost her husband and son to a distant explosion, hides in a remote cabin with only Coda, her loyal German shepherd, to keep the nightmares at bay. Tonight, the storm rages. Jess forces open an abandoned cabin door. Her flashlight finds a stranger in a broken wheelchair, half frozen, eyes pleading through frost. She could walk away. She almost does. But his raw, desperate gaze pierces her scars and whispers the question that haunts her every night. What if someone had come for them? What if, just once, she could be the one who stays? Before we begin, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. The wind howled across the Wyoming plains like an old sorrow refusing to die. Snow fell thick and relentless, blanketing the world in white silence. A small log cabin stood alone among the pines, its chimney trailing thin smoke into the gray dusk of late afternoon. Inside, the fire crackled low, and the air smelled of pine resin and damp wool. Jess Monroe had lived here for 3 winters now. 35 years old, she carried the weight of a life that had once been louder. Marine Corps fatigues traded for solitude. Her dark brown hair was cropped short in a practical pixie cut, strands catching the firelight. Her face bore the quiet lines of someone who had seen too much too soon. Fair skin tanned by high-altitude sun, small scars tracing her forearms like faint maps of old battles. She moved with the careful economy of a soldier who knew pain waited in sudden steps. Her eyes, gray-green and steady, rarely softened. Tonight they stared into the flames, remembering dreams that came too often. Her husband's last laugh, her boy's small hand slipping from hers in the chaos of that distant roadside explosion. The war had taken them both in one cruel stroke, leaving her hollowed out. She had chosen this remote place to keep the world at arm's length. Only Coda remained. The German shepherd, 5 years strong, lay at her feet. Black and tan coat thick against the cold, ears pricked, brown eyes watchful. He was more than companion. He was the steady rhythm of her breathing when the nights grew too dark. The storm had been building all day. Jess felt it in her bones. The old shrapnel scar in her right leg throbbed like a warning. She rose, pulled on her olive-green parka, the fur-lined hood framing her face, and clipped Coda's leash. "Let's check the old place before it buries us," she murmured. Coda stood immediately, tail low, alert. They stepped out into the wind. Snow stung her cheeks. The abandoned cabin sat half a mile away, its roof sagging under fresh drifts. She pushed the door open with her shoulder. Inside, darkness swallowed the light from her flashlight until it caught him. A man, young, perhaps 33, sat slumped in a broken wheelchair. His dark brown hair was matted with ice, his black, hooded down jacket crusted white. He shivered violently, lips blue. His eyes, when they lifted, were brown and exhausted, holding a quiet plea beneath the haze of cold. "Help," he whispered, voice cracked. Jess knelt. No time for questions. She assessed. Pulse weak, skin icy. She unbuckled her pack, wrapped him in the emergency blanket, then hoisted him onto her back. He was heavier than he looked, lean but solid. Her leg protested sharply as she straightened. Pain flared hot up her thigh. She staggered once. Coda barked low, urgent, then seized the rope she had tied to her belt. He pulled steadily, muscles bunching under his red fleece coat, black collar glinting. Step by step, they fought the wind. Jess's breath came in short bursts, each inhale burning. She thought of her boy, how small he had felt when she carried him piggyback through the yard years ago. The memory stung sweeter than the cold. By the time they reached her door, her arms trembled, but she did not drop him. She lowered him onto the rug near the fire. Coda shook snow from his coat and lay close, nose inches from the stranger's face, sniffing, judging. The man, Liam, he said his name was, voice faint, muttered thanks. His words were vague. Lost trail. Wheelchair stuck. No signal. Jess listened without reply. She peeled off his soaked layers, wrapped him in blankets, forced warm broth between his lips. Her hands were steady, practiced from field medicine long ago. But inside, doubt stirred. His story felt thin like smoke. Why a wheelchair in these backcountry trails? Why alone? She fed the fire, watched the flames dance on his pale face. Coda never took his eyes off him. Ears forward, body relaxed, but ready. Jess sat back against the wall, rifle within reach. The storm raged outside, sealing them in. She felt the old walls of her heart shift, just a fraction. Not trust, not yet, but something closer to duty. She had saved him because she could. Because once, no one had saved the ones she loved. That was enough for tonight. The fire popped softly. Coda sighed, head resting on his paws. Jess looked at the stranger sleeping now, chest rising slow. She whispered to the quiet room, "We'll see what morning brings." A small promise to wait, to watch, to remember that even in this frozen place, life still asked for mercy. The storm held the cabin in a long, white embrace. Snow piled against the windows, dimming the daylight to a soft, perpetual twilight. Inside, the fire burned steady, sending warmth across the rough pine floorboards and the scent of burning cedar into every corner. The wind outside moaned low, but within these walls, time seemed to slow, measured only by the crackle of logs and the quiet rhythm of breathing. Jess moved through the days with the same quiet efficiency she once used in field hospitals. She changed the blankets around Liam, checked the circulation in his feet, spooned more broth into his mouth when he could swallow. Her hands were gentle but distant, professional almost. She spoke little beyond necessities. "Drink this. Try to rest." Her gray-green eyes met his only briefly, searching for something she could not yet name. Doubt had taken root in her chest, small and sharp. His story remained thin. A wrong turn on unmarked trails, a wheelchair that failed in deep snow. No phone, no pack, no explanation that fit these remote mountains. She watched him from the corner of her eye while she split kindling, the axe thuds echoing like measured heartbeats. Coda never left the rug near Liam's pallet. The German shepherd lay with his head on his paws, black and tan coat rising and falling slowly. His brown eyes followed every small movement Liam made, ears twitching at a sigh, a shift of weight. Coda did not growl, but he did not relax either. He judged in silence, the way only dogs can, with a patience older than words. Liam lay beneath the quilts, body warming but mind restless. The firelight played across his face, clean-shaven, still pale, dark hair drying in soft waves against his forehead. His brown eyes carried the weight of secrets he had carried too long. Each time Jess turned away to tend the stove, guilt pressed heavier on his ribs. The lie about his legs had begun as a shield, a way to disappear into anonymity, to test whether kindness could still exist without strings. Now it felt like a stone in his throat. He watched her back as she worked, the slight limp when she forgot to hide it, the way her shoulders stayed squared even in exhaustion. She had saved him without asking why he was worth saving. That alone cracked something inside him. On the third night, when the wind quieted to a whisper, Liam stared at the ceiling beams and remembered a different winter long ago. He had been 12, parents gone in the crash that left the company to him before he understood what it meant. Alone in the big empty house, he had curled on the floor with the old retriever who never left his side. That dog had rested its head in his lap until the shaking stopped. The memory rose unbidden, warm and aching. Coda moved then. Without warning, the big dog rose, padded across the rug, and lowered his head onto Liam's chest. Just rested it there, solid, warm, steady. No demand, no question. Liam's breath caught. His hand lifted slowly, fingers sinking into the thick fur behind Coda's ears. The dog sighed, a deep, contented sound. Jess froze at the stove, wooden spoon in hand. She turned. Her eyes met Liam's over the fire's glow. For the first time, something shifted in her gaze. Not trust, not yet, but recognition. Liam's voice came soft, almost lost in the crackle of wood. "My folks, they died when I was a kid. Car accident. The company was theirs. I was alone after that. Had a dog once. He kept me from falling apart. He swallowed. This one reminds me. Jess said nothing at first. She set the spoon down, crossed her arms, felt the old scar on her forearm tighten. Coda stayed where he was, eyes half closed, as though he had decided something the humans had not. In that quiet moment, the cabin seemed smaller, the space between them narrower. Jess felt the wall she had built begin to thin, just enough to let a sliver of warmth through. Not forgiveness, not belief, but the faint possibility that stories, even broken ones, might still hold truth. She turned back to the stove, stirred the pot slowly. The aroma of stew filled the room, onions, herbs, beef she had thawed yesterday. Outside, the snow continued to fall, soft now, almost tender. Liam closed his eyes, hand still in Coda's fur. Jess glanced once more at the two of them, then looked away. A small promise settled in her heart. She would keep watch, not just for danger, but for whatever came next. Sometimes, she thought, the first step toward healing is simply staying in the room. The storm finally eased its grip. Sunlight broke through thinning clouds, turning the snow into a soft, glittering blanket that reflected pale gold across the valley. The air outside carried the clean scent of wet pine and melting ice. Inside the cabin, the fire had settled to embers, warm and low, and the quiet felt different now, less heavy, more like waiting. Jess noticed the change first. The wind no longer rattled the panes. Instead, a gentle drip sounded from the eaves. She stepped to the door, pushed it open. Cold air rushed in, fresh and sharp. Liam watched from his pallet, propped against pillows she had arranged days ago. His color had returned, though shadows lingered beneath his eyes. Jess said little. She gathered scrap lumber from the lean-to, old boards, a few lengths of 2x4, and began working outside. Hammer strikes rang clear in the stillness. She built a simple ramp, rough but sturdy, angled from the threshold down to the packed snow. No flourish, no announcement, just necessity wrapped in care. When it was finished, she tested it with her boot, nodded once, then went back inside. "Come on," she said quietly. "Fresh air will do you good." Liam hesitated. His gaze flicked to the ramp, then to her face. Something in her steady gray-green eyes, tired yet resolute, made his throat tighten. He had not expected this small act. Not from a woman who owed him nothing. She helped him transfer to the old wheelchair she had repaired with duct tape and wire. Coda padded ahead, tail low and slow, sniffing the new path. Jess pushed from behind. The wheels rolled smoothly over the boards. Outside, the sun touched Liam's face for the first time in days. He closed his eyes, breathed deep. The cold stung, but it felt alive. Jess stood beside him, arms crossed against the chill, watching snowflakes drift from branches like forgotten thoughts. Neither spoke for a long minute. The silence was kind. Back inside, the evenings lengthened into something softer. They sat by the fire, Jess in the worn armchair, Liam on the pallet, Coda stretched between them like a living bridge. The dog's presence made words easier. He lay with his head near Liam one night, then shifted to rest against Jess's knee the next, as though reminding them both they were not alone. Conversations came in fragments at first. Liam asked about the scars on her hands. Jess answered simply, "Old work." But the firelight loosened something. One night, she spoke of the shrapnel that had torn through her abdomen years ago. "Took more than flesh," she said, voice low. "Took the chance of ever carrying another life." Her fingers traced the invisible line across her stomach. The admission hung in the air, raw and quiet. Liam listened without interruption. Coda lifted his head, brown eyes moving from one to the other, ears soft. Liam felt the weight of his own secret press harder. He had come here to disappear, to test whether anyone could still offer kindness without knowing his name or his fortune. Now, looking at Jess, her quiet strength, the way she had built that ramp without fanfare, he understood the cost of such gestures. "I lied about some things," he said at last, words careful. The legs, they work. I just needed to see if someone would help without asking why. He waited for anger. Instead, Jess met his eyes. A flicker of hurt crossed her face, then steadied. People do that sometimes, she murmured. Hide to be seen. Coda sighed, shifted closer to Liam as though forgiving first. The words lingered like smoke. Jess did not push. She rose, added a log to the fire, watched sparks rise. Liam stared into the flames, feeling the lie loosen its hold. Not gone, but lighter. Trust had not arrived fully, but a seed had been planted. Jess felt it too, the old walls in her chest thinning further, letting in slivers of possibility. She thought of her boy's laughter, how it had once filled empty spaces. Perhaps some spaces could be filled again, slowly, with small acts and honest silences. Coda rolled onto his side, paws twitching in a dream. The fire popped gently. In that moment, the cabin held them all, 2 wounded souls and 1 faithful dog, wrapped in the same fragile warmth. Jess looked at Liam across the glow. She did not smile, but her gaze softened. A quiet promise formed in her heart. Whatever came next, she would meet it without running. And perhaps, just perhaps, he would stay long enough to meet it with her. The sky cleared to a crisp blue, but a chill lingered in the air like unfinished business. Sunlight streamed through the cabin windows, casting long shadows across the wooden floor. Outside, the snow began to melt in patches, dripping steadily from the roof. The quiet was broken by the distant rumble of an engine. It came without warning, the rescue vehicle crunching over the thawing path. Jess heard it first, a low growl that grew into clarity. She stepped to the door, Coda at her heels, his ears pricked forward. The truck pulled up, doors opening. A woman emerged, perhaps 30, elegant even in the wilderness. Long auburn hair tied back, a tailored wool coat over jeans, boots polished despite the mud. Her voice was sharp, polished, city accent cutting through the mountain air. "Liam? Thank God." She rushed forward, eyes wide with relief and something sharper, possessive. Her name was Elena, she said, his fiancée. Behind her, 2 men in uniforms nodded respectfully. Liam sat up straighter, face paling. His brown eyes flickered with surprise, then resolve. He had not called them. The company had tracked his signal somehow. Elena knelt beside him, hands on his arm, whispering of helicopters waiting, doctors, the life back home. She was poised, confident, used to commanding rooms full of board members. But Liam shook his head. "I'm not going," he said softly. His voice carried the weight of decisions long brewing. He looked at Jess across the room, then at Coda, who sat watchful, tail still. The dog's brown eyes met his, steady as always. Elena's face tightened, confusion, then anger flashing in her hazel gaze. "What do you mean? You're safe now. Come home." But Liam stayed put. The air thickened with unspoken truths. Jess stood silent, arms crossed, feeling the shift. She had opened her home, her scars, to this man. Now the world outside had come knocking, revealing layers she had not seen. Doubt crept back, cold as the melting snow. Coda whined low, sensing the tension. Later that afternoon, alone in the cabin while Elena waited outside with the team, Jess returned from chopping wood. The axe still in her hand, she paused at the window. There, Liam standing, not in the chair, but on his feet, stretching slowly by the fire. His legs moved without effort, strong and sure. The sight hit her like a punch from the past. She dropped the axe, the thud echoing. Liam turned, eyes widening in shock. "Jess, Ursa," he started, but she was already inside, door slamming behind her. The fire crackled mockingly. Her breath came short, ragged. All those days of care, the ramp she built with her own hands, the stories shared, built on sand. "You lied," she whispered, voice breaking. The words swelled into a storm. "All this time, pretending. Why? To play at being broken? To test me like some game?" Her gray-green eyes blazed, tears welling unbidden. Memories flooded, the war's betrayals, friends lost to hidden dangers, her family gone in a flash of deceitful peace. Liam stepped forward, hands raised. It wasn't like that. I needed to escape. The money, the pressure. I wanted to see real kindness without the strings. His voice trembled, guilt etching lines on his face. But Jess shook her head, fury rising from years of buried pain. You used me, my hurt, for your little experiment, like I'm some pawn in your billionaire world. Words flew sharp, accusations laced with sobs. Coda barked once, sharp, then paced between them, eyes darting. The cabin seemed smaller, walls closing in with the scent of smoke and sweat. Finally, Jess pointed to the door. Get out. Liam hesitated, then gathered his things, stepping into the lingering snow flurries. The door closed behind him. Silence fell, heavy as lead. She sank to the floor, back against the wall. Coda came to her, pressing his warm body against her side, head in her lap. His breath was steady, a quiet anchor. Jess buried her face in his fur, tears soaking the black and tan coat. The fire popped softly, embers glowing red. Outside, the truck's engine faded into the distance. Liam had gone. With Elena, or alone, she did not know. The betrayal stung deep, reopening wounds she thought scarred over. But in the quiet, something stirred. Not forgiveness, not yet, but understanding. People hide for reasons. She knew that too well. Her own isolation had been a kind of lie, a shield against more loss. Coda licked her hand, eyes soft with unwavering loyalty. Jess stroked his ears, feeling the rhythm of his heart against hers. The pain was raw, but it would pass, as storms do. She whispered to the empty room, "We'll be all right," a quiet vow, to heal, to trust her own strength again. The sunlight shifted, warming the floor. In that moment, amidst the ache, a fragile peace settled. Months passed like slow seasons in the high country. Autumn turned the aspens gold, then winter returned with its quiet weight. The cabin stood as it always had, solitary, steadfast, its chimney smoke rising thin against gray skies. Inside, the fire burned low most evenings. Jess moved through her days with the same measured steps, but the silence now carried an echo of absence. Coda felt it too. He lay longer by the door, ears lifting at distant sounds that never came. Liam had left that day without argument. The truck's taillights faded into the snow, and he was gone. Hours later, Jess found the envelope on the mantel, plain white, no stamp. Inside, his handwriting was careful, almost hesitant. He wrote of the lie that had started as escape but grew into shame. He spoke of her kindness, the ramp she built, the stories she shared in firelight. "I took your trust and twisted it," he wrote. "I have no right to ask forgiveness. But know this, you gave me back something I thought lost, proof that goodness still walks the earth." Tucked inside was a receipt, a bright red rubber ball ordered for Coda, shipped to the cabin. Jess set the letter down. Anger flared first, sharp, familiar. Then came the ache. She folded the paper, placed it in the drawer with old photographs. Coda nosed the ball when it arrived days later, tail wagging slow. He carried it to his rug, rested his head on it. Jess watched, throat tight. The gesture was small, childlike. It pierced her more than any grand apology could. She thought of her boy, how he once chased a ball across the yard, laughter ringing. The memory softened the edges of her hurt. Not gone, but gentler. One crisp spring morning, the sound of tires on gravel broke the quiet. Jess stepped onto the porch, Coda bounding ahead. Liam stood by the truck, older somehow, though only months had passed. His dark hair was longer, windswept. His brown eyes carried a quiet humility. No coat of wealth, just jeans, a worn jacket, boots scuffed from walking. He held no gifts, only himself. Coda reached him first, leaping, barking joyfully, tail a blur. The dog circled once, then seized the red ball from the porch and dropped it at Liam's feet. Liam knelt, hands in fur, voice low. "Hey, boy?" Jess stayed on the step, arms folded. Her heart thudded, anger, hope, fear all tangled. Liam rose slowly. "I didn't come to explain again," he said. "I came because I couldn't stay away, not after what you gave me." He looked at the cabin, then at her. "And I paid the mortgage, not to buy anything, to keep this place yours. You earned that peace." Jess's breath caught. She had raged at the discovery weeks ago, another intrusion. But now, standing here, she saw it differently. Not control, but protection. A silent way to say, "You deserve to stay whole." Tears pricked her eyes. She did not speak. Coda moved then. He trotted toward the small clearing behind the cabin, red ball in mouth, glancing back. Liam followed. Jess hesitated, then went too. The path led to a simple stone marker half hidden by pine needles. Her husband's name etched faint. Dates too short. Coda dropped the ball gently at the base. Sat, tail still. Liam stopped a few paces away. Sunlight filtered through branches, warming the ground. They stood in silence. Jess felt the old grief rise, soft this time, like a sigh long held. Liam spoke quietly. "I lost people too. Not the same way, but gone all the same." His voice cracked. "I thought running would fix it. It didn't." Jess looked at him, really looked. The man who had lied, who had left, who had come back. Coda leaned against her leg, steady. She reached down, touched the dog's head. Then she stepped forward, placed a hand on the stone. "He'd have liked you," she murmured. "The real you." Liam's shoulders eased. No grand words followed. Just the wind in the pines, the warmth of sun on skin, the quiet breathing of three beings who had walked through fire. Jess turned to him. "Stay," she said simply, "for supper, at least." A small beginning. They walked back together. Coda led the way, ball bouncing ahead. Inside the cabin, the fire waited. Jess set plates. Liam helped, without asking. Later, they spoke of a small rescue center, stray dogs, wounded animals, a place to mend what was broken. Not a promise of forever, but of days ahead. Jess felt something loosen in her chest, a knot untied after years. Trust returned slowly, like dawn after long night. She looked at Liam across the table, at Coda curled between their chairs. The cabin held them gently. In that quiet glow, she knew, some wounds scar, but they can still hold light. She reached for his hand. He took it. The fire crackled on, steady and kind. As the cabin lights fade into the quiet Wyoming night, remember this. Loneliness and illness can feel like endless winters, stealing warmth from our days and dimming the fire in our hearts. But just like Jess found healing through one act of kindness and one faithful friend, you too are never truly alone. Reach out to a neighbor, a family member, or even a stranger. Share your story in the comments below. Your words might be the light someone needs. If this touched you, like, subscribe, and share this channel with someone who feels forgotten. May the Lord wrap you in His peace, ease your pains, and remind you every day you are loved, you matter, and brighter seasons are coming. God bless you always.